Audrey Legatowicz, and I have a studio too at the Chicken Farm Arts Center in San Angelo. I moved from Skokie, Illinois to Dallas in 1980, and after exhibiting at an art show in Dallas with Roger Allen from the Chicken Farm for years, I started to come out here. I was invited to show in Studio One, so I had come out here twice a year for around 10 years. And when a studio opened up last year, I decided to move here and move in. So here I am.
Yeah.
I have been weaving. My daughter she's like 44, so I've been weaving all that time.
Wow.
Skokie, yeah, it's a northern suburb of Chicago. It's a very lively city, so I had a lot of activity there with the museums and the Chicago Cubs.
Go Cubs.
Yes. I started weaving actually by taking an adult education class there, and that's what really got me involved. Just on my own, I studied for a number of years, and when I moved to Dallas, I became involved with the Dallas Hand Weavers Guild, and after they had a sale, I found out that people liked my work and they wanted to buy it, so it got me more enthused. What made me take that class? My daughter was an infant. I had a 3-year-old son, and just something for me other than being involved with motherhood, it was nice to develop a hobby. Yes, when I first started, I certainly took out all the books I could and studied on my own, and then when I joined the Weavers Guild, they do offer workshops, and just with their monthly meetings, to be with other weavers that share their information and might get little tips along the way, which I enjoy passing on to others. That people do either come into my studio, or if I'm exhibiting and showing my work at an art show, that they don't realize that the garments, like the one I'm wearing today, I wove, and it all starts with threads. There's so many steps. People will ask me, oh, how long did it take you to weave this towel or something? That even just to select the threads and get them ready and dress the loom, these are all the steps that complete a final cloth. Right now I'm weaving another cotton towel, and part of the process is to decide what colors and what pattern I would like to weave. So this one certainly is just kind of with some earth tones. I try to create different selections for my customers, and every kitchen needs a towel. They're very absorbent. So when I dress the loom, I have to prepare the threads, and this pattern has 24 warp threads for every inch, and this is like 23 inches wide, so it includes math in the process. I have to decide how many yards I need to place on the loom, and when I put on a long warp onto the loom, that's the threads on the loom, then I could produce I could do maybe 10 towels on very long warp and use different weft colors. Right now I'm using the brown, and this loom has 8 harnesses, and there's a special design or pattern or sequence that I have to thread through to create a certain pattern. The next step then, once I have to thread the loom, wind it all on, thread it through, these are called petals, bring it through the reed, tie it onto an apron bar. At the bottom of the loom, I have different petals, and again, these are tied special to control certain harnesses. When I press a pedal, it lifts up certain harnesses and consequently lifts those threads that were threaded through those harnesses. The other threads remain down, so that gives me a path to weave across. So I've tied all of my treadles, and I have a certain order that I have to press the petals or treadles. So I'm going to start, and I have my weft thread on a shuttle. Press that through, pressing a different petal so it creates a different path. And I have a sequence that I go through to create the pattern. If I change any of the variables, like if I threaded it different, or if I tied it up different, or if I press the petals in a different order, the cloth will look different. And that's where you could explore a lot, is to change any of the variables and come up with a different look. So to me, that's still so fascinating. Interesting. Well, throughout my professional life as a weaver, I have taken classes, taken workshops with other textile artists, and when I taught at the Craft Guild of Dallas, the main instructor there was a wonderful Jean Young Kudlicki, who I enjoyed teaching alongside, and I learned a lot from her. Modeling for me. Now they are teenagers. And actually I started doing baby things when I became a grandmother, and you're never too young to be stylish and colorful. I'll get messages from people that still have their blankets, and I actually had an order to do one, and it was a gift for a young mother who had one of my blankets herself, and then the next generation has one. So that's something that still gives me goosebumps when I hear from people. I did work at the Booker T. Washington High School, which is the creative arts, and that was a wonderful experience. And there I was actually hired on my professional skills and developed a program there with textiles. They kind of let me work on my own curriculum and introduce all of the students, whether they were visual arts students, dance or theater students. They all took an introductory class. And I enjoy it all. It's amazing how I could be at an art show and have a spinning wheel and demonstrate spinning, and there could be a 4-year-old and a 90-year-old that had never seen it. So for me, it's wonderful to educate people. With the children, when I would show them, and they would stand along the loom, and I might say, okay, what color shall we weave now? And they would choose, and then I would create like a plaid design with their assistance. But they realize, oh, you don't just go to the store and buy a shirt, necessarily. And I related it to their Texas history also. So I think that's real important for them to realize, they didn't have stores to necessarily go and buy their clothes.
Kind of grounds it and gives roots to.
Yes.
Yes.
And after showing some of them how to spin, even on a drop spindle, and how they can make a little drop spindle, I have packages of letters that the students would write and that they were inspired. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So when you take the raw wool, you this has already been carded, but when it's still knotted up or whatever, or if you want to blend colors, these are the carders that are used. So it can't be the wool that just is sheared off the sheep. That first you have to card. And then the next step would be to spin it into thread. So let's see if this stool will work. So taking these little fibers, letting them touch, and by having the tension and the twisting at the same time, this is how you create the thread. And I can make it as thick or as thin as I want. or I could put the amount of twist that I want. So this is what intrigued me about learning how to spin, so I could create unique yarns. And then not only do you spin the thread, but you can also ply them and make special threads by blending two threads together and spinning it in the opposite direction. What I prefer on my hand spun is to create, like you can see here, is like some lumps in the yarn that offers a lot of texture. And that is nice for a lot of the things that I do. Otherwise, you create one solid thread the same weight if you prefer it. So. Well, I think what really affected me is that my grandmothers, being from that area, had come to the United States, and they were both seamstresses. So I think that's where I developed a passion for textiles. And I learned young how to crochet and knit and sew. And that's where I think I developed the passion. Well, my father was a wonderful painter, and he could draw wonderful things. Not that that was his profession, but my sister is an excellent artist, and she is in Tucson area and does create and show her work as well.
And would you say they influenced you any in your weaving?
Well, the competitiveness with my sister, that was something that I realized, no, I couldn't draw because she was so good. We'd have little contests of creating different pictures. So I came up with three-dimensional things. Well, when I moved to the Dallas area, I was actually substitute teaching. My background is in elementary education. And when I realized I wasn't getting a permanent position because I didn't know people here, my weaving was something that helped me to deal with life and enjoy it. And through the sales of the Hand Weavers Guild, that's when I decided, well, I really enjoy this and wanted to continue. I did work at the weaving shop in Dallas at the time, and then eventually started helping with the teaching of classes at the Craft Guild of Dallas. Since then, I had also done programs for the Plano School District, and for a number of years brought my spinning wheel and the loom and all the equipment to show from start to finish how to produce hand-woven cloth. It evolved, yes. When I first started creating to sell my work, a lot of it was just the plain weave, and with the heavier threads, or I do a lot of rag weaving and purses like that. And I think it's established me more to develop the finer threads and do some wearables with that, and all the patterns that I weave into the cotton towels. It's just, yeah, I enjoy weaving more of the complex patterns and the cloth itself more than when I first started weaving, when I would just weave a lot of plain weave. I also enjoy the felting, using the raw wool that I would spin with, and I do wet felting. So I am dreaming of doing some wall art.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
It adds to the quality of your life, really. I enjoy my home, all the handcrafted things that I've gotten, and I think it just, you feel the soul of an artist, and I think the joy is continuous that way.